Welcome everyone to the Collaborative Circle. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. These monthly conversations explore topics surrounding divorce and how the collaborative process can benefit families. They are presented by the LICDP, Long Island Collaborative Divorce Professionals. We are a dedicated group of attorneys, family support specialists, and financial experts committed to teaching and helping. Teaching the public about better alternatives to the traditional divorce model and helping families make informed decisions during divorce. Today, we will discuss what happens when a spouse is potentially hiding assets and not being transparent in the divorce process. My name is Jackie Caputo. I'm a collaboratively trained divorce attorney and mediator and proud member of the LICDP. Rounding out the circle with me today are my colleagues and friends, Elizabeth Vaz, also a collaborative attorney and mediator and the founder of the LICDP. Elise Parisi, licensed clinical social worker and family specialist for collaborative cases. And Nanette Watts, CPA, forensic accountant and collaborative financial neutral. All of our contact information and biographies can be found on our website, which will be provided at the end of our video. For today's chat, we'll use an example from recent headlines, and we'll take a look at the pending divorce between former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler and his reality star entrepreneur wife, Kristen Cavallari. What started out initially with the typical celebrity statement that they've come to this decision together and have nothing but love and respect for one another quickly turned ugly when Kristen made an allegation that both during the marriage and the divorce, Jay has been hiding money and assets such as his NFL pension, and that he may be aided in doing so by their longtime shared business manager and financial team. Liz, I'll turn to you first. In your experience as an attorney and mediator, have you found the hiding of assets to be a common problem? And more importantly, for those of us in the collaborative community, if such an allegation is being made at the start of a divorce, would that prevent the couple from being able to proceed with the collaborative process?
So first of all, wonderful introduction, and that's a fantastic question because truthfully, as an attorney, a lot of times people do come in and say, my spouse has a hidden account or has an account with a sibling or another family member, and I have no access to it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know where the money's coming from that's going in there. Or sometimes cash, right? There might be some cash somewhere, but there are a lot of times when things are hidden. And as you and I both know, right, that's something that we need some type of proof to get to the bottom of. Sometimes it's not a huge deal, right? It might just be a little vacation club account, but sometimes it can be very, very substantial. And I would suspect that the case at large here, the one that you mentioned, it would probably be a significant amount of money if those allegations are true. So having said that, I think that is it a challenge? Absolutely. But does that mean that it precludes anyone who's speaking about or claiming that there are hidden assets somewhere from moving forward in collaborative? Absolutely not. I think that when couples come to the collaborative table, it's a completely different mindset, right? There is full transparency, and they understand that the team is really there to help them and to help them work toward their goals. And their goals in the collaborative process are not about hiding and squirreling money away. Most people, they know that this is going to be found. So if they're coming to the collaborative model with the mindset that they are going to work toward a negotiated settlement that really benefits everybody, they really will be able to start to disclose that. And we have a fantastic team of professionals that will help them do it.
Thanks, Liz. I agree with that 100%. And now turning to Nanette, who is the financial neutral on our chat today. As the financial neutral, Nanette, in a collaborative case, what do you actually do to try to find these assets and keep the process moving forward in a productive way when one of the parties may be being evasive?
Okay, thank you, Jackie. As we heard in the Cutler case, a wife alleged that the husband's business manager helped hide assets. While that may be true, there's still going to be a paper trail, and it would be important to gather the right information regardless of the divorce process that the couple may be using. I would venture that the business manager had some professional credentials that would require he keep records of the client transactions, and knowing what those records are called, we can make a very specific request for the information from that advisor. that relationship in and of itself would not necessarily concern me. It's been my experience that we really just have to ask the right questions to get the right answers. So we know that collaborative is supposed to be transparent, and people going through the divorce don't always follow the rules, and the mere agreement that we're supposed to be transparent does not set aside the notion that someone has a concern that there are hidden assets. The transparency comes not only when the information is exchanged initially, but when the documents are requested and then ultimately shared later. So as a CPA, I'm not a private investigator. I can't go finding assets that exist. I have to follow the paper trail. But that trail can lead to a host of information if we make the right requests. And financial forensic neutrals, we're trained and experienced to identify assets and find paths to the assets. We may request any and all documents to lay to rest any concerns that the parties may have. But let's be realistic. Not all suspicions pan out to be hidden assets. Sometimes there are logical explanations for why things happen. But when they happen in a court environment, one party makes an allegation, which can be because they are concerned that something is being concealed, or they are truly unfamiliar with their own finances. And that's not uncommon. The court has to entertain those positions, though, which can lead to extensive drawn-out discovery, and that is quite frequently a costly and time-consuming endeavor. In collaborative, the financial neutral is brought to the team earlier in the process to help gather the right documents, identify the assets and the liabilities, assess income and spending, and help everyone focus on this particular couple's finances. The really important thing for people to understand is that if there's truly an intent to hide something, even in litigation and after exhaustive and costly discovery, there is no guarantee that you're going to uncover everything. That's simply the nature of hidden assets. But we do our best to help the team gain an understanding of what we know, what our concerns are, and come to a resolution that everyone can be comfortable with and at least be confident enough that they can move ahead.
As a litigator, I've litigated many of these cases also, and I completely echo what you're saying about how expensive and time-consuming the discovery process can be. And it's certainly expedited and more efficient in a collaborative case. Nanette, can you walk us through what we can expect from the financial neutral who's working with the collaborative team?
Sure.
To try to uncover
like
those
I said
assets?
earlier, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying to try to uncover any potentially hidden assets.
Okay. So like I said, we try to get involved as early as the case is possible because that just makes it easier for everyone concerned. We typically go back 3 to 5 years in financial records. We ask for tax returns, bank and investment statements, credit card statements. We try and get a time frame of when everything was good in the couple and when divorce planning had not yet been started. So that could be 10 years, that could be 2 years. That all depends on the parties themselves and what we need to look at. We use that information to put together a picture of the couple's finances. And by example, I can look at a copy of a tax return, and I can see that there are interest and dividends reported or sales of stocks, and I can use that information to identify bank accounts. We can see business income reported that tells us there's a business to be appraised or an opportunity that somebody had in a real estate venture. We can look at the itemized deductions on the tax returns. We can use banking records to follow the transactions within a bank account and see if there's money being moved to other accounts or to purchase assets. We can look at loans. We can look at lines of credit. We can look at credit card statements, and we can identify certain costs within the credit card statements themselves to lead us to other assets or other opportunities or investments. So for example, if I see travel costs on a credit card, or I see payments of maintenance or HOA fees, I can find that there might be a piece of property held. I've seen cases where somebody was purchasing cases of wine and stockpiling a wine cellar in their basement that turned out to be a very significant asset of value. I've seen jewelry purchases. If we see costs for marinas, that might tell us that there's a boat We see expenses at the golf club or the member, we might find that there's membership interest in a golf community. These are all things that can help us. And again, these are all parts of a paper trail that we can follow. We can look at wage statements. We can find maybe retirement assets. We can help a couple to understand what their retirement assets are and what their benefits packages are. We can look at life insurance policies. I mean, there is a host of information that's available in the paper itself that we can help the parties to understand what their finances are. And sometimes in collaborative, it's not necessarily about gathering the documents, but it's definitely about educating the parties in the process. And even after all of this is exhausted, what we find sometimes is that it's not about the money, that there's something more to what's going on in this process, and there's something more to the mindset of the parties that we really need to understand. So Elise, as a family specialist, can you tell us why a spouse might hide assets during the divorce and how you might be able to assist them in the process?
Thanks, Nanette. You know, one of the things I was also thinking is sometimes as a third party, like in the Cutler case, they had a business manager who'd been trying to hide all sorts of things for them. So it's not just the couple themselves. So, you know, like in divorce, feelings get heightened. They get exaggerated, particularly the negative ones. And either spouse has lots of feelings going on underneath. So whether they're feeling mad and angry, whether there's feelings of resentment and wanting to get even. There's also feelings of entitlement. You know, I'm just entitled for this, but all that you've done to me, as I said, everything gets heightened. There's patterns of lies and deception, which may have actually started a little bit in the marriage, but then in the divorce process, they get exaggerated. So any forms of hiding money or investments are all part of keeping secrets. There might even be, you know, there's the sense of an affair. And there's often a fear to increase conflict if we blow those secrets open. So it's really important to know, I've been talking now about the sort of negative side of hiding, the feelings that are going on underneath, which we need to address. Yet, not all hiding is malicious or resentful or deceitful. And sometimes the emotions have to do with that feeling of abandonment, feeling left, feeling neglected, or wanting to have some sense of security and wanting to have some stash of money put away to be secure, or even for providing for the children. So the amount of money doesn't always necessarily correlate to the intensity of emotions. And it's not always the spouse that has all the money that is doing this or not doing this. So I can tell you that we've talked about transparency, and transparency is the key to a healthy divorce. And yet, of course, you know, it's challenging because divorce is a breakdown of the marriage, which means that the marriage itself is not healthy. So I will tell you that hiding as a motive will go south, right? It doesn't get you necessarily where you want to go. And because transparency is so important in the collaborative process, we try to work with hiding, what the feelings are, why it's coming up, why is it so connected to money being squirreled away in some form. And myself as the family support specialist is here to help the couple to be transparent, to help the team, and the attorneys, the financials, for all of us to come together to be transparent and work together, so that if there is conflict, and look, let me tell you, we all know conflict is natural, right? Some of us want to really avoid it, some of us are really comfortable with it. But the point is, conflict has to be addressed. And when it can be addressed effectively and we deal with those feelings, then hiding doesn't have to happen at the same extent that it can in alternative methods of divorce, regular divorce, where it's litigated, you end up going to court, you end up waiting around. I mean, all these things happen. And what you often end up with is a win-lose scenario. What we're doing with collaborative is we're really looking to get a win-win, where all parties walk away, yeah, they gave a little, whatever happened, but there's much more of a win-win, and particularly when there are kids involved. You don't want to get the kids to lose. You don't want the kids to have to suffer because you're hiding something, thinking it's going to help them in the long run. Let me tell you, it probably won't, because it's all part of the dynamic between the couple that's trying to come to a collaborative, a gentler, kinder way to give some completion to a marriage that is no longer working.
Thank you, Elise. And I think that raises an interesting question that perhaps Liz can help us answer. Liz, if a client comes to you and divulges that they have such an asset, but they're not bringing it to the rest of the team, what obligation would you feel that you have to bring it to the rest of the team? And what would you do with that information in a collaborative case?
So that's really, really significant, and it can be very tricky, whether you're in litigation or whether you're in collaborative. Because again, as we've stated many times, collaborative is about being transparent. We're going to bring everything to the table. We're going to be open and honest, and we're going to discuss everything. But if a client were to say to me, oh, I have a certain account that I do not want to disclose, my first instinct is to ask, just like Elise said, why? Why is it that you don't want to disclose it? What are your fears about it? What are your thoughts about it? And really try to get to the bottom of the reasoning behind it and the justification that this person has for trying to keep it from their spouse. Now, we can only be so successful at that, right? So the reality is, again, signing the participation agreement and coming into this model, we all know that everything has to be disclosed. If the client really digs their heels in and says, I'm absolutely not going to disclose this information, I would certainly encourage them to try to speak to either the financial neutral or the family support specialist to sort of gain some clarity on what does this mean? What's the reasoning behind it? Maybe they can dive a little deeper and help them understand it a little bit more in ways that maybe I can't. Again, we're a team for a reason, right? Because there might be a way that that person communicates with another professional on the team that helps them see the light, and they'll bring it to the table. But at the end of the day, if they absolutely refuse and they won't bring it to the table, there might be, and now it's very, very case specific, but there might be a time when that attorney, let's say it's me, right? If it's me, I might have to let that client know that I'm not going to be able to represent them in the collaborative process anymore. Because again, we're really here to help this family move forward. We are not litigating this, and again, even in litigation, we're not able to hide things. So we want to let them know that just because this is disclosed doesn't mean that the other spouse gets all of it, right? That's not how it works. But we have to have it on the table in order to have an even playing field and to really establish that trust that we need for a real and meaningful discussion in this team model. One thing that I hear, right, that Nanette was saying about trying to find the documents and Elise was saying about the reasons, is asking the right questions, right? That's vital throughout the whole process, is to know, we each have our specialty, right? Whether it's legal, financial, or the family support specialist, we know what questions to hone in on, what issues really to focus on. And when you ask the right questions, people generally want to give the answers. They do. They want to be able to tell you, I did this for X reason, right? Like Elise said, maybe I'm putting this money away for my children for college. Maybe I'm holding on to this money for my financial security in the future. Being able to do the paper trail, like Nanette said, and find it, and then really focusing on what's the interest, right? That's what we're all about, is interest-based solutions. Not what you're legally entitled to, not what your positions are, not what your rights are, but what's the motive behind it? What's the reasoning for it? And how can we help you make a better future?
And does anyone on the team have any last thoughts today?
Yeah, I want to follow up with the no secrets, because no secrets means being transparent. And I'm going to let you know, based on the cases we've done, that no secrets decreases conflict, even though that may seem counterintuitive. It allows the divorce to happen more quickly, the process is shortened, and generally the costs will be less.
I think one of the most important things that Elise said was that it really is about a team approach. And the team approach is what will lead you to those solutions. And I think that's what we all recognize over and over in this practice, that the team approach will lead to a much better resolution. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. If you'd like any more information about the collaborative divorce process, we invite you to check out our website at www.licdp.com. And we encourage you to reach out to any of the professionals in our group. And we hope that we'll keep this conversation going. And please join us next month for another collaborative circle. Thank you.